Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the updates 1.95 dev server and it's time to have a look at the Isuzu. This is a new rank 2 battle rating 4.0 machine which is coming to the Japanese tech tree and updates 1.95. You can find it after the Chikugo. I hope these two get lowered in BR a little bit, but still, you know, it's nice to see. The Isuzu also sits at 270,000 RP, which is insane. Nobody is going to grind this thing unless they reduce its RP cost. The Isuzu does have access to some pretty interesting armament though. Starting off with the main guns, it has two sets of dual-mounted 3-inch Mark 33 guns. These are very much fast-firing guns, as you can see here. 50 rounds per minute for the first stage fire rate and 35 rounds per minute for the second stage, or the non-first stage fire rate. Overall, that means that this can pump out a ton of shells over a minute's time. Think about 50 rounds per minute per gun, so therefore that is just insane, the amount that you can pump out. So the other thing as well is it does have access to some torpedoes. These torpedoes are 12.75-inch Mark 46s. They travel at 91 kilometers an hour, so they're pretty quick, and also they go for 7.30 kilometers. So on the majority of small maps that hopefully you get on in this machine, you'll be able to pretty much traverse the map with these. They're also in quite a nice position, so they can move either left to right, depending on where you want to launch them, which is really nice. The other thing as well is the power plant of the Isuzu seems incredibly small. I don't know whether this is how it's designed to be, but this whole center of this machine is pretty much just fuel tanks. And then you can see how small these little areas are down here that the smoke funnels are connected to. These are supposed to be 4 engines, but I feel like Zoolander, where it says, is this an engine made for ants? Because look how small they are. They're diddy. What are you going to do with those things? And then, of course, you have the transmissions coming off of them and everything moving into the smoke funnel where it is just centrally mounted. You, of course, have the search radar antenna, and this is a new feature for updates 1.95. The ships actually get active radar, so they are able to scout out planes and also target them using search radar, which I think is really cool. Obviously you have the bridge and now the creme de la creme, I suppose, or the sugar on top. We have access with this machine to a 320mm Mark 108 Weapon Alpha Anti-Submarine rocket launcher. It fires 12 rounds per minute, so 5-second reload. And also, it has 22 rounds of ammunition, which you can see are all stored here. Now, this rocket launcher, I'll show you, when we get into the test drive. It kind of has a guidance system, I think. It's kind of hard to work out whether it does or not, because of the fact it seems to guide on what you target, but at the same time, because it isn't guided after you fire it, then it's kind of hard to work out if it's going towards the target or not, or whether you just get blind lucky. Looking at the armor of this machine, the only armor is available on the turrets, 15mm, and then the hull itself is 23mm of steel, with the superstructure being 8mm overall. Then you have a crew of 183. Just to put that into perspective, that is pretty much the little bit more crew than some of the destroyers that are available for Britain right now, such as the Brissenden, which you see right here. So it has a pretty decent complement of crew, and also, the survivability shouldn't be too bad with the guns on board, because you'll be able to stay at range and attack stuff at a very high fire rate. Looking at its general ammunition choices, you start off with a HE round for the 76.2, which is of course the 3-inch, and then you get access to an APHE round, which pens 135, so there's no way you're not going to be penning whatever you face. And then on top of this, you have of course the HEVT round, which only pens 7mm. So this is pretty much just for dealing with aircraft, the variable time fuse. You also have secondary weapons time as well. You can ditch the rockets for depth charges if you really feel like it, if you really want to. You can ditch, the rockets for 2 mortar depth charges. I wouldn't bother. There's really no point in doing so. The depth charges right now do not have that much of a key role in the game, and this rocket is also much more interesting than it. Here is the rocket itself, 320 millimeters of size, 238 kilos when it comes to projectile mass, 85 meters per second, so it's not the fastest, but it's good enough, and 113 kilograms of explosive mass. So the half of the weight of this projectile is explosive, which is really cool. Then it has a really, really small fuse sensitivity, and also it has a ricochet chance, which is kind of interesting, along with, of course, armor penetration of 99 millimeters across the board. So unless you get really up to 5.0 and you face some form of cruiser, and you also get in range of it to be able to use the damn thing, then yeah, I don't think that's going to go so well for you. You're not going to be able to get that close, but even if you are, it's generally not going to be something which really does too much for you. I'm just going to make sure that when it comes to my controls that I have everything set up for all of this, because obviously I want to make sure that I don't screw up. I don't think the weaponry is actually sorted out for the ships yet. What I mean by this is the radar stuff. So you can see that, you have rockets and smoke grenades set up, and then you have, of course, manual targeting, which I don't use, and all of this stuff. But unfortunately, when it comes to it, there's nothing on the actual navigation of the radar, so you just kind of have to go with it, or use radar which is used in planes, which is right here. You can switch radar on and off, change scope, and we'll see if we can actually use the lock-on feature for this machine. It was shown on a dev stream earlier that you can use the lock-on. I personally haven't got it to work, but then again, sometimes I can be a bit of a soft brain, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. That's what the radar looks like, and you can see the machine is up here. So we have a PVY coming in, and you can see it's just, oh, there we go. Okay, so for some reason the controls are reversed, so god damn it. So you can see this is pretty much how it looks. Incredibly similar to everything else when it comes to the radar, where you are just able to pump shots into a machine and hopefully it lines up with it. So yeah, that is how the radar works in naval. It's exactly the same as every other game mode. Now let's talk about this rocket, because the rocket's an interesting one, right? So we have a little boat here, and we'll just push our frigate to the side so the rocket is able to get a shot on. And we'll also slow it down a little bit so we don't go too fast, so we can line up the shot. Okay, come on. There we go, should be there pretty soon. And off we go. So that PT boat is 720 away. We've targeted it, we have the rocket on it, so let's fire the rocket, okay? So there goes the rocket. And it comes down, and it blows it up. But all of my experiences with rockets all of my experiences with rockets in War Thunder is they go a specific distance and they just fire on, and that's just basically what happens with them. But it seems like these rockets, they have a little bit more tact to them, unless, I'm being a little bit silly, which of course can happen as well. The main 3 inches though, the main thing which is powerful about them is of course the fire rate. They do overheat, which is something you do have to take into account when using this machine. So make sure to shoot a bunch of shells and then just wait a little bit, just to make sure that they don't overheat, because otherwise you're going to be left in a position where you're not going to be able to use them. Then of course the torpedoes. The torpedoes in this machine are very good. They are going to be able to pretty much one-tap anything you're going to face around this. And the only real issue, I suppose, when it comes to the weaponry of this, is because it's sat at 4.0, you have a worrying situation where you are going to face a lot of destroyers. And as you can see from that destroyer over there, that's quite a lot of big guns on it. Well, you don't. And you also don't have a lot of armor. So you're really going to be stuck in a worrying situation where you're going to have to stick to the shallows to try and fight these guys, because yes, you are going to be able to do a decent amount of damage. You can actually see the sparks coming off the guns there. How cool is that? But you can see with pretty much a full salvo before having overheated, we've done pretty much nothing to him. And what that means is we are going to get one shot by that guy if he decides to, you know, pick on us, which is a real problem. Now, when it comes to the rocket, I'm actually going to see how much the rocket does to that machine, because I am interested in that. At the same time, one of the nice things about the 3 inches is that they can just shoot at whatever they want. They have really good coverage for both of them. The only thing they can't do is obviously both shoot forward at once, but no matter where an enemy is around the sea, you will be able to get some form of gun onto it. Because you have no technical secondary armaments that are not controlled by you, meaning that there is no like secondary AI guns or secondary AI systems, everything is and will be in your control. Now, whether that's a good thing or whether that's a bad thing is up to you, because it means like you're going to have to think about 5 different things at once instead of just a single thing. But that comes down to, of course, personal preference. And if you want to be in control of your ship, or if you want, you know, some AI about, well, you can always, you know, play the Chikugo, which of course you will have had to unlock to get to the ship if you want that little bit of AI help. I'm really happy that the radar does work well in this machine. There are a bunch of other ships which also have a radar going forward, and for me it's just nice to see another mode which gets access to this nice new mechanic. Now, whether the mechanic is, as you can see, as good as it is in other game modes, if I had the HEDF it definitely would be, but for now you can see it has a few issues with properly lining up the general shots, and eventually it will hit with the general shots, but it's just going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of sorting out. See, that looked pretty close, didn't it? Like, if you line them up perfectly, like here, I bet you it still misses. And that's because it doesn't really take into account the maneuverability of your ship. So you have to watch out for that, and you have to take that into account personally. Let's see. We're close to him. I mean, we can fire some warning shots. You know, we have 22 worth of these rockets, and maybe it will show us if these things are guided from the start or not. So this guy is what? Why is my radar? What? Why was I able? What? Why is my radar trying to target him? Anyway, that's one missile away. So that's 1100 pretty much. Let's see if the missile hits. Nope, fell way short. So let's try 1000, which is pretty much what we have measured here. Let's see if that hits. Nope. It looks like we're looking at a rocket which is not going to go so far. Now let's try 810. Here we go. Rocket is away. You can see that it ends up kind of like a mortar. You can maybe use it to fire over hills and stuff. That would be pretty fun. Ooh, that was pretty close. So maybe the range is like 750 on this thing. That would probably make the most sense to me when looking at the rocket. So pop! Beautiful stuff. So now we know that this rocket hits at that range. About 700 at least. Let's see if this one hits, and does it course correct? It does. So anything which is in 750 or about 700 range of you, the rocket will self-correct itself so it hits. And I think right now, I'm not sure if this one's going to hit, just because it's started to curve over. But you can see the amount of damage that the rockets are doing to this destroyer. But the main thing that I'm personally happy about is that it is, you know, they are actually guiding towards the target, and there is like a variable distance on it, depending on, you know, where you're actually hitting the machine. So that's awesome. You know, that's really cool. That's a new mechanic that we have in the game, and I can definitely see how this could be used for other ships in the future. That poor destroyer has definitely had enough, so we'll just finish it off. If we can actually pen the damn thing. Let's actually switch ammo types. does take a while to switch ammo types in this thing, so that is a bit of a problem. But we are at 6. Let's see if it actually, does it go for what I aimed at? Yes, it does. So it goes at what I have specifically targeted instead of the ship itself. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And I'm happy that that actually works like that. So yeah, this is the Isuzu. It brings a new mechanic to the game. It doesn't just bring radar, it also brings this interesting rocket launcher, which does change depending on the distance that you fire it at. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyins Terry, Elove Goat, and Seductive Trashcan for supporting the channel.